Hi, good afternoon, everyone. We are going to get started with our webinar shortly. We have 55, 56 attendees logged on. We're going to give it another minute or two to make sure everyone has an opportunity to get logged on, and we'll get started in 1 minute, so please be patient. Okay, it's 12:01, and we're going to get started now. My name is Patrick Cousins, and I am the Client Marketing Manager for CounselLink. Thank you for joining us today for our first Lunch and Learn event. Today's topic is getting started with work management, and we are super excited to begin these virtual events and plan on doing more of them in the future to help all of you become more familiar with the different features that CounselLink offers. First, we're going to take care of some basic housekeeping business for those of you who are unfamiliar with GoToWebinar. On this slide, on the left-hand side, you'll see a screen of a graphic that looks like a traffic light. The arrow icon allows you to collapse or expand the panel, and you can see the expanded panel on the right side of your screen. This is where you can pose questions for our moderator. The second icon is for muting. The format we're using today keeps all participants muted so the presenter can focus on the learning material. However, we do encourage you to engage us with questions through the questions and chat feature, which you see on your slide, and also to engage with our polls that we'll be conducting. The third icon is for expanding or minimizing your screen. And the fourth and final icon is the raise your hand feature, which we will not be really needing to use today since you can ask questions directly to our moderator. So our webinar is hosted by two CounselLink experts today. Amy Nelson will be the presenter. Amy's title is Learning Experience Principal. She has been with LexisNexis for over 7 years. And Jeff Scott will be our moderator, fielding questions through our chat and working with Amy to get you the answers you need to your questions. Jeff has been with LexisNexis for 21 years, and his title is Manager Sales Solution Architects. Our agenda will break down work management by the different functionalities listed here, and we'll be displaying a poll before each section. I'm going to launch a sample poll right now and give everyone around 30 seconds to respond, just so you can get familiar with that. So here goes. I'll give everyone about 30 seconds to weigh in on that, and then we'll display results, and then we will pass it over to Amy to begin the learning. Okay, we got some really good response. Over 60% of you have voted already. Give you a few more seconds. And it looks like everyone's looking to kind of get back into the office. They like the flexibility, but miss their coworkers, and I think we all feel the same way. So thank you for that. And now we will pass this back to Amy Nelson, who will begin the webinar.
All right, thanks, Patrick. Hi, everybody. This is Amy Nelson. I see a lot of names that I recognize over there in the attendees. So it's really nice to speak with a lot of you again. Today, what we're going to do is we are going to do a little bit of a walkthrough, and let's see if I can successfully share my screen over here. Let's see. Patrick, if you'll make me a presenter, I can share my screen. And so what we're going to do today is a little bit of work management here. Talking about matter tasks, which is pretty new in the field of work management, and then going over a few oldies but goodies, participants, journals, and documents so that we can get moving here. All right. There we go. Now I've got permission, and hopefully everybody should be able to see my screen. Patrick, just let me know if we're presenting.
Looks good.
Okay, perfect. So we're logged into CounselLink now. I am in my demo system, which if you've ever had a class with me, you've probably seen this user before. In the upper right-hand corner, you can see I'm logged in as Jane Nelson. And this is just your basic homepage of CounselLink. What I'm going to focus on today is, since we're doing work management, we're just going to start from a matter overview page. And so to get to a matter overview page, I'm going to use that My Matter functionality. So if you'll remember, My Matters is just a favoriting function in CounselLink. It's a way to tag a matter as a favorite so that you can pull it up very quickly. Nothing gets added to your My Matters list without you adding it or you taking it away. And so you can see in my matter container on the home page here, I've got 10 matters in there. So I'm going to open up that list, and here are my current 10 favorites here in my system. And the one we're going to work with today is, we've got the Brookbinder division bankruptcy. So I've purchased a division and they're in bankruptcy, and so I've got a matter around that. So I'm going to open up this one. Just click the matter title and open this guy up, and we're going to land on our matter overview page. And so this is where we're going to begin all of our lessons for today. And the first thing that we're going to focus on is matter tasks. And so matter tasks are fairly new in the system. Probably all here in about in 2020 is when we've started releasing this functionality. And so since it's brand new, it's sitting right here at the top of our page. So if you'll remember from classes with me, all matter pages are constructed in a similar fashion. We've got a top section with general information and a bottom section with all of these little tabs along the bottom that lead us into detailed information. The matter tasks section is right here at the top, and you can see it right here. When I click it, it'll open up a section that will allow me to add matter tasks. Now, before we get started with matter tasks, we've got a little poll to just kind of gauge the temperature with the use of matter tasks so far. So why don't you go ahead and launch that poll for us?
Okay, people are
All
jumping
right.
on that pretty quickly.
Yeah, great, great. So, and as you guys are answering these questions here, matter tasks are really just to-dos, things that you would like to either track or assign for people to do in CounselLink. And so we're going to go ahead and add a few in here in just a moment so you can kind of see how they might become helpful. And so before we do that, though, it looks like we've got about 50% of people that have voted. So why don't we go ahead and collect that vote and show everybody. All right. So we've got about 22% that are using matter tasks already, which is pretty good. It's fairly new functionality. So for the 78% of you that aren't, hopefully we can show you something today that might be helpful for you. So let's start. So I just opened up this matter task section, and you can see down here in the table, let me scroll down just a little bit, that I've already got one task in here. I want somebody to add the engagement letter to the Documents tab, and I've assigned that, well, to myself. So basically I'm reminding myself here. So let's add another task here. So come on in here and click Add Task. So we can click Add Task to add, kind of ad hoc or one-off tasks in here. And so that's what we're doing first. So maybe I want somebody to request the budget for me. And so let's just do that. So I need a budget on this, and I want to remind somebody to get that done. Notice that the only thing on this task that's required with the red asterisk is the name. So if you do as little as just add the names to your tasks, it can just kind of be a running to-do list on the matter itself. but you can also use it as an alert system, which I'm going to do here. You can add a description, a further description here if you think it's required. But as I keep on scrolling down, now I'm going to pick who I'm going to assign this thing to. And I can assign it by user role or by a username. So user role is, well, I want the Matter contact to do it. Maybe I forgot who it is, and I don't want to close this window down to find out. I can just assign it to the Matter task. Or if I know who I want to send it to, well, I can do that too. I'm just going to put my own name in here again. So when I start typing in that line, who I'm assigning it to, it's searching my CounselLink users so it can offer me suggestions. And so you can see there it is, Jane Nelson. I can give it a priority. I can estimate the amount of time that it's going to take to do this. I don't have to. And then down at the bottom is also a dependency. So I can give it a due date is what it's telling me. I don't have to give it a due date, but I can. So if I pick due date, maybe I want it due on May 1st. I want this task done by May 1st. If I give it a due date, I can also get a reminder. So to remind me that 2 days ahead of time that I still need to get this task done. Now, the dependency and the reminder are what are going to help trigger an email that's going to come to me to tell me a task is due and give me a link to it. Now, this one right here, I'm giving it a due date, but also notice my other choice, dependent on task complete. I already have another task on this matter. The task I already have on this matter is to add an engagement letter. What if I want, or I've got cascading tasks, maybe a workflow of tasks that need to be done on a matter, where the first thing I want somebody to do is to add an engagement letter. Only after that engagement letter is added, then I want somebody to request the budget. So if that's the case, my dependency, I can make it dependent on another task being complete. Which task? This one. And there you go. And then I can set a due date. How many days after the first one? Maybe 1 day. And then when I save it, now we're going to get another task put under here. Now, since I'm logged in as Jane Nelson, it's being very good for me and it's showing me, all of my tasks here. So I'm going to take off these filters. And there we go. So I took off those filters that were already showing at the top of my Matter tasks. It automatically filters to show tasks that are due by you and that are currently able to be done. But you can see this request budget, that second task there, it's now pending because it's dependent on the first one being done. Now that I've sent these tasks off and I've added these tasks to the Matter, I've gotten an email. And here, I'll actually even show you what an email looks like. This is what an email looks like when a task is assigned. You've got a task assigned. It'll tell you the tasks that you have to do and even give you a link to go see the tasks that are assigned to you. So that's the email that will come in. Also on the home page, so if we go back to the home page of CounselLink, there is a Matter task container. And so if this is something that you do often, you might pull that up to the top of your page. When you look at this task container, you can look at tasks that are assigned to you, but look here in the upper left-hand corner, you can also monitor the tasks that you've created. So it can be kind of an end user task list, or it can be an administrator to monitor the tasks that you've assigned and know that they're getting done. So either way, you can look at that. So if I look at all the tasks assigned to me, well, due today, due tomorrow, due in the next 7 days, and then I've also got a few that are overdue as well. So I can view all of those right here. And when I choose these, like here, there it is right there, due tomorrow, add engagement letter. That's on that matter that we've just, that we were just on, that Brookbinder Division bankruptcy. If I click the task name, it'll open up the task window. So we can see the task, we can see the tasks that are dependent on it down there at the bottom. And if it's a more complex task, I might open this view so that I can add comments. add any other notes that I'd like to here to kind of detail what I've been doing. But since this is a very simple task, I'm going to go back to the home page. Instead of opening up the task here, I'm going to go right to the matter. So notice that the matter is also a hyperlink here. I can just go right to the matter and view it here, just like I had before. And now, add engagement letter to the documents tab. Once I add that letter, I go right over to the side, mark it as done. You can enter how much time you spent, but you don't have to. You can just click confirm. And now look at the other one. The other one is showing now. So now that I've got the first task complete, the second task is showing here for me. And if I want to see all tasks on this particular matter, look here at the top of the matter task. I've got 3 filters applied. I can just take off these filters very quickly to view the full task list on this matter. All right, so that is adding, 1 or 2 tasks to a matter. To-do list items is what you're doing here, either tracking that work has been completed or assigning work out to individuals in the department so that they can complete tasks on a matter. So what I see a lot is a lot of times an administrative function will create the matter and they need a little information from an attorney, or an attorney creates the matter and they need a little information from an administrator. This is a really good way to add that to do so that you know it's been done and you've added it to the matter. Now, if you find that you're doing the same 5 tasks on every single matter, maybe it's like matter setup and you're doing the same 5 things across all matters, you can create templates for these matter tasks. And I actually have one in here. So if you click instead of add a task to add a template, I've got a couple of templates already in here. I've got a template for e-billing setup and a template for matter setup tasks. That's the one I'm going to pick. I'm just checking it off. Click apply. And now you see I've got 3 more tasks added here, and they were assigned to the appropriate person here. So Robert Brown got those because Robert Brown is my matter contact here. So you can create templates of tasks that make it a little bit easier to add these things, especially if you're doing the same tasks over and over again. All right, so that is adding a task template, looking at that homepage container that will monitor those tasks for you, and then of course how to complete a task, which really is just coming to the matter and clicking that done symbol. Notice that there are comment fields on every single one of these tasks. If you want to make a comment on any of these tasks, you can as well. So if something went wrong with requesting the budget or it was something weird, you could just add a comment to mark down the history on that as well. All right, so that is matter tasks in a nutshell. Let's see if we've had any questions come in. Jeff, have we had any questions come in?
Yeah, we've had several come in on tasks. The first one is around adding tasks to a firm. So they wanted to know whether or not we could add tasks to a firm when there's a general engagement letter.
Not yet. We can't assign matter tasks out to law firm users at this point. It's internal CounselLink users that we can add tasks for.
And I might add that there is some overlap between tasks and calendar at this point. You can still use calendar to add events for your law firms, such as responding to the general engagement letter or using the billing guidelines functionality so that they can confirm the billing guidelines that they have accepted them.
Perfect.
There was
right.
one other question,
Yeah,
and it really just gets to basically how we might be able to advise our clients in the use of tasks. And this gets around, do we have any guidance on how legal teams can start to utilize tasks, or do we have any sample matter task templates? Which I think is an excellent question. We don't have any sample templates today, but this is one that we'd like to go ahead and take back to our products team just with regards to the ask itself. Amy, are you aware of any other guidance that we provide through our services team or through account management?
As far as matter task use, it's just to get in here and get started. Templates are a really good way to add, multiple tasks at once. Is really just getting started with it since it's brand new functionality. All
Great.
right. So
And
that's
then we'll go ahead and respond to the folks that we didn't get their questions in here in more depth. So thank you for those
wonderful.
questions.
Yeah, and any questions we don't get answered kind of live out here in the webinar just because time constraints, we've got them all and we'll get you answers no matter what. Okay, so that's matter tasks. So let's reset here a little bit. I'm going to close down our matter task container, and you can do that too. You can see we can just open it up and close it down. And one other thing is I spoke about getting here at the very beginning. So when we logged into CounselLink on this homepage, I went to the My Matters list in order to get to this matter that is one of my favorites. And so that's the Brookbinder Division bankruptcy. It's the little star in the upper left-hand corner. That's how you mark a matter as a favorite, is just tag it just like that. And remember, multiple people can have the same matter in their My Matters list. And this My Matters list, this favoriting function, will become even more important here in a little bit as we start discussing a few of the other topics we're going to go over today. All right, next topic is participants. Now, the next topics we're going to talk about, we're going to direct our attention down to the bottom of the matter and across those little tabs across the bottom. And the first one I'm going to click on is participants. And so I think we also have a poll to launch our participants discussion as well. So let's go ahead and launch our poll. I know somebody can get that done. All right, collecting responses. All right, we've got about 20, 22%, 25%. All right, and we're climbing on responses. All right, so if you've got that poll in front of you, go ahead and give that an answer. All right, we're about 33%. We'll give it a few more percentages. We'll get up to 50% at least, and then we'll show you some results here. And so while we're collecting some responses, participants are adding persons or entities to a matter so that you can track that information. Adding someone or a business as a participant does not give someone access to CounselLink. What it's doing is listing a person or an entity here under the participants tab so that you can report, you can track, and you can cross-reference. And so let's see over here. We've got about 45% voted. Let's go ahead and end that poll and show everybody the results. And so what it looks like is that we've got around 20% of you are already using participants for litigation. 41% total using it, and a few people that aren't yet. So hopefully, again, that 38% of you that aren't using participants so far, that we can show you a few tips here that maybe might be helpful to you. Okay, so let's show a participant. Now, we can add internal or external people to the participants tab. Current CounselLink users can be used under the participants tab, but remember, adding a person under the participants tab isn't the mechanism that's giving someone permission to view. It's just listing information. So we're collecting data is what we're doing. And obviously you can see under this participants tab, it's really easy to just go in and click add. When you click add for a participant, what it's going to do is have you pick a contact out of your system. Contacts are kind of your Rolodex within CounselLink. So some companies I know have feeds of information coming into the system for contacts. You may have kind of an HR feed into the system to populate your contacts. Other people do that manually. And then you can always come in and add more contacts as needed. The ability, and I should note, the ability to add a contact into the system is permission based. So that might be a permission you need if you can't do that already. You can even see down here at the bottom left-hand corner of that pop-up window where I could create a new contact. So if somebody wasn't in the system, that I could add them. But what I'm going to do is pick somebody that's already in the system. So let's go in here and I'm going to add like my internal business owner, that this business kind of, rounds up to a certain user. So let's add them. And so I can search them, or I can kind of open up my results and view a lot of results at once. But I'm going to use this person right here, Amy Blaine. So I just click her name and then we can see who it is. She's the VP of our manufacturing division. And so there's her email and her address. And over on the right-hand side, I'm going to pick what role I want her to play on this matter. Well, she's the business owner. So all of this business is rolling up to her. So I want to name her as the business owner. What this is going to allow me to do is then pick her as the business owner and see all the matters that are under her. So that's an advantage to this. Now, these roles that I pulled down here, when I pull down these roles, I've got a few custom roles in here, like business owner is one I added, but a lot of these are just the standard CounselLink participant roles. These participant roles here can also be customized for your business use cases too. That is something you can do internally. Your power users can do that. So whoever is kind of your system admin for CounselLink is the person that can change these categories, is what we call them. So I'm putting Amy Blaine here as a business owner. I can assign her as the lead participant if I want to. That's just a designation that I'm allowed to use. And whenever I'm adding information to CounselLink, by default, I'm not sharing it with my law firm. And that's the law firm that's attached under the law firm tab. But if I would like them to also see this information, I could check a box and allow them to see it. But by default, we're not adding it. And so there, add that participant. So there you go. Now under that participants tab, I've got Amy Blaine listed. And now let's add an external one. So maybe now I want to add a consultant. Maybe I'm using a consultant service. And I know the consultant I'm using is Alex. So if I start searching for Alex, and there he is right there, Alex Chandler. So I'm going to pick his name, and his role is consultant. Again, same choices here. When I click add participant, now I have two people listed here underneath my participants tab. Anybody that can view this matter internally can now view that information as well. So if they want to come to this matter and say, oh, what's the consultant we're working with? They can look at the participants tab and know that it's Alex. The other thing that we can do is notice that Amy and Alex, their names are hyperlinks. So if I click Alex's name, it's going to take me to his contact page. So now I'm looking at Alex's contact page, and it's the same format. General information up top, tabs across the bottom. I can look at his matters and see everywhere he's a consultant. So I can see that he's working on a couple of different acquisitions and bankruptcies for me. So it allows me to cross-reference. I can do that in real time here, just by pulling up this information, or it's also information that I could report out on as well. And so let's return back to our matter overview. Right-hand corner, it just says back to matter overview. That's how I can go back. And then we'll land back here on our matter and show our participants. The other thing to note is that if somebody wanted a list of my participants here, I could always select all my results. Do you see once I click that box, it selects all of them? And over on the right-hand side, I could download right from this participants panel to download and create a quick report of this information as well. If you get a really long list of participants on a matter, notice that each one of these headings, one of these columns, they have a filter associated with them. So I could filter and just show consultants or just show the business owner. And there's also a search function here as well. So if you do get longer lists of participants, that they can show. All right, so that's a really quick primer on participants, because participants are pretty easy to use. You just have to have your contacts in the system. If you need to create contacts or if you want to check your contacts to make sure that your Rolodex is up to date, from the home page of CounselLink, there is a tab across the top called Contacts. You can go ahead, and if I hit reset to default, it'll show me all my active ones. You can go ahead and take a look at all the contacts you currently have in the system, and then you could either create or request that entries be entered here so that you have them to use as participants. And so what I'm going to do now to go back to the matter, just a shortcut, this is kind of a little tip. Recent items, top right, I can go right back to where I was, Brookbinder acquisition, Brookbinder division bankruptcy is the matter. All right, so that is participants. How about any questions? Do we have any questions come in on the participant function?
We sure do. Some great questions came in. One is, can participants take any action on matters?
No. When you add a participant to a matter, you are only adding them as an information. So when I scroll down here, Amy Blaine is an internal employee for the company. She may or may not be a CounselLink user. I'm listing her here so that we can report and see and track. I am not granting her access. I'm not granting Alex access. So adding someone to the participants tab does not give someone access to CounselLink. If you want somebody to have access to this matter in CounselLink, they would have to be added as a CounselLink user and then added underneath the staff tab. So there is a staff tab all the way over there at the very end where you could add visibility to the matter to other users.
Right.
All right. Any other questions?
There was one other question, and I think this is one we'll have to take back to a product owner, but you may know the answer. It was, if we want to add a contact to a matter who is not in our general contacts list, and we don't want them there, can we add them there just for this matter?
No, we'll take that back and ask that specific question. But when you add someone to the contacts list, it's in your general Rolodex for contacts in the system. And one other item that I should also point out is that if you guys do decide to use participants and you want to make sure that a business owner is on every single matter, or if you've got a litigation office and you want to make sure that opposing counsel is listed under the participants tab for every single litigation matter, there is in the background the ability to set minimums for participants. And that would be a system administrator function back in that corporate profile or back in that office profile. In your corporate information and office information, there are matter participant settings, which would allow you to say, I want at least one business owner on every single matter. And in effect, what that would do is add a yellow flag to the top of your matters for any matter that didn't have a business owner. So it would serve as a reminder. So there is a way to go and kind of set a minimum for participants if you want to ensure that a certain type of participant is added across all matters. And that can be set at the corporate level or at your office level. All right, so that is participants. Now, the next thing we're going to move forward to is we're just going straight down this line of extra work management features. And the next thing we're going to talk about is journaling. And so you can see right here, when I look at my journal, I've already got 3. And again, I think we have a beginning poll for journals. So let's go ahead and launch that poll as well. All right, and so what you can see by the poll there as well is, how you might use journaling. So a lot of people will use journaling for just kind of case-specific notes. So remember that when you add a matter to the system, you can give it a matter description up here. But the matter description is something that would be visible to all your law firms that you've also got added to your matter. So if you want to add notes or a deeper description that's more private that you don't want someone to see, The journaling feature is a perfect tool for that because it keeps it a little bit more private. You could also do status updates, like monthly status updates, and think about using something like tasks and journals together. Why don't you set up Matter tasks where you remind people every single month to go in and update their status updates? So that's how you could use a couple of these tools in conjunction as well. All right, it looks like we've got about 48% answered. Why don't we go ahead and show those results? All right, so it does look like a few of you already use this, especially for status updates. It's a really great tool for status updates. You can pull journal information out into reports as well. So know that when you're entering journals here that you can report on some of that information. And it looks like about 67% of the people that answered don't use journaling at all yet. So hopefully, going through this little section here, I can give you some tips on how to use it very quickly, and that it might be something you're encouraged to use going forward. All right, so journals. On the matter itself, we're still just starting here on the matter overview page. And when we click on that journal tab, obviously, we can just click add to add another journal entry. And so maybe this one, I'm going to add my April status update. It's almost the end of April. Update, and let's say April. I'm going to date this one the 29th. That's fine for my date. And then, of course, you can use up to 64,000 characters in a journal update. And you can see, you can format that however you would like to. I'm just going to put test in here for now just to kind of keep us moving along quickly. Again, with journal entries, just like participants, you can categorize your entry. You will always have a few of these that are native to the system so that they're preloaded into the system. But you can always change any of these. And again, that's one of your system administrator responsibilities. All this is a category list. It can be updated at any point to fit your business needs. And so I'm just going to make this one a status update, clearly. And of course, again, share with law firms. By default, I'm not sharing this with the law firm. But if I'd like to, I can click that check mark and make this one visible to my firm. And there's always a place for journal-specific documents here as well, so that a document kind of stays tied to a journal entry. So if it's a status update and I've got a few attachments, I could always add those here as well. I can just drag and drop them right in, or I could go navigate for them. I'm just going to go ahead and save this one though. So when I save it, now I'll have another journal entry added under here. And so you can see I've got both my status update for March, status update for April. And so of course the first thing that I see is that I'm not consistent in my nomenclature for those two status updates. If you need to, you can always click this one and edit your entry. It would pull that back up so I can edit that. The only person that can edit a journal entry is the person that has entered it. And then remember, every time we change something, edit something, we will always keep a history of that as well so that you kind of know exactly what's been going on. And so of course now I've got a status update in there. You can add as many journal entries in here as you would like to. The other features that are really handy are the ability to add a comment. So I've entered this status update for April. Maybe what I want to do is not edit this status update, but I've got an additional piece of information that I'd like to add to it. I want to maintain my original, but then add a comment. As long as you check off that status entry, you can add a comment. And of course, then we just start typing in our comments. And then what you'll notice is we start to get a listing of the comments here. Oop, actually, I want to go ahead and add that comment here. Let's go back. I should click add when I want to do that instead of getting out of the screen. Let's do that again. Okay, add comments. And so once we add the comment in here, I can continue to add more, and we keep track of it here. So on that status update April, the original one was entered at this date and by this person, and then it was last commented on at this date by this person. You can add as many comments as you'd like to, so it almost can turn these journal entries into a discussion thread if you'd like to. Now, that's adding a journal entry the long way, is what I would call that one. There is another way to add a journal entry. And so if you're one of the people that actually uses our Outlook add-in, and so I'm going to pull that over here. This is just a demo window of my Outlook add-in or my Outlook screen, and I've got my add-in over there on the right-hand side. Now, this is where designating matters as a favorite or a my matter becomes really handy, because when I'm looking over there at that sliver of CounselLink in this Outlook plugin, when I click the matters section here, notice what it's doing. The first list that I see is my shorter list of favorites that I want to work with. And look right here, the second one is the Brookbinder Division bankruptcy. I can open that up and see a little key information about it, or I can right click on it and add a journal entry. And so what it allows me to do is, without going into CounselLink, navigating to the matter, navigating to the journal tab, clicking add, I can just right click it right here in that Outlook add-in, and it brings up that window right here. And let's do training test and test. We'll keep the date. We'll keep this one just as a general note, but my categories are here as well. And then when I click add, it's going to add that journal entry to the matter. I can always navigate out to CounselLink to see it there. But anytime I've got a quick note to add to any of these, so maybe I'm on a phone call and I want to keep notes on the actual matter, right click, add a journal entry, and my note taking window is right here for me at a moment's notice. So the Outlook add-in really offers a convenience there as far as speed and efficiency when we're adding journal entries. And so here we can actually pull this off again. We'll pull that back in when it's convenient here in just a minute. And so now under our journals, if I reset my screen here, we'll see if that loaded that quickly. Sometimes it'll take a moment to provision, but yeah, there it is right there. That's the one that I just added with that Outlook plugin. And so I added that quickly. Same thing on the journal tab as on the participants tab. We can come in here and pick any of the results. We can pick all of them, or we can pick and choose and export those results right here from the journal tab, so that if somebody wants to see all of the status updates for this particular matter, how about I group by category, and it'll pull all of my categories together, and there's my status updates, and I can pick them both and export them very quickly. So I can group and then export, or I could just kind of find them in here as well. You can filter down all of these columns as well. You can see there's filter panels at the top of each of the column headers as well. So journals, if you use them, you could get quite lengthy here and you need ways to kind of filter out information or export the information. You can do it straight from here. So you don't even need to go out to the reporting tool. If somebody wants to see the status updates for a single matter, just come to the matter and pick the status updates and export them. It's really easy to handle. All right, so let's see, we've added a journal entry by hand in CounselLink. We've also added one via the Outlook add-in. We can add comments, we can export, and we can filter and see all of these in a different order if we'd like to. So that is journal entries. Pretty easy to add. Of course, that Outlook add-in makes it very easy. How about any questions that have come in, Jeff?
Yeah, I love this question, which is some folks do use for notes, they use matter additional information, custom data fields, and they have a section called notes in their particular client setup. And they asked, basically, I use the notes section. What's the difference between notes and journal? Journal is a standard feature, and notes is something that's been configured for your particular users for a specific purpose using user configurable data fields or legacy custom data fields.
Yeah, and the journal entries, the added convenience here is that if you just wanted to export a few of these, you can do that very quickly just by picking them and exporting and downloading
Exactly.
them to Excel.
It's a standard feature, so it keeps getting improved as well.
Yep, yep. All right. Okay, so if there's any other questions, we'll get those handled either through the chat or we'll follow up. Since we've got about 15 minutes left, let's make sure we have enough time to cover our documents section, and then we'll take as many questions as we can at the end. So, last item here, and I'm just going to continue scrolling down these tabs, and I'm going to click the Documents tab here. And so when we get to documents, we can add them here, obviously, in CounselLink, but we also have some conveniences with that Outlook add-in. Before we get in there, let's launch our last poll, though, too. We've got a poll for, okay, and so we've got that one coming in. It's kind of like, where do you currently keep your documents? Does anybody use CounselLink for that? Do you have a separate system that you link to CounselLink? There's lots of different options there, and so it might be insightful for the group to kind of see the breakdown of that. Of course, it's all anonymous there. While we're taking, though, that poll, of course, documents, you might put your engagement letters there. You might put budget correspondence. So if you're getting budget numbers from your law firms and you're not using the budgeting tool, maybe that's something that you keep there. General case documents. You can even, when you're adding documents, you don't even have to add the document. You could add a link to a document space if needed. So there's lots of different options here, and you can even see it on the Documents tab here over to the left-hand side. We've added foldering functionality with documents as well, and so we'll go over those here in the next 10 minutes or so. Looks like we've got about 55% have answered the poll. Let's go ahead and post that for everybody. So yeah, it looks like there's a lot of people that actually do use CounselLink for documents, which is great. That's encouraging to see. And then of course, everybody can see the breakdown of kind of where everybody else is keeping those documents. All right, so let's do this. Let's add a document here. So clearly, we can come into a matter here and click the Add button and start to add documents. Now, when we open up that Add Document page, you can see it up here at the very top. If you have an external link that you'd like to link here, you can do that too and post that on the matter if you would like to. You can also just go out and kind of browse for documents. So that Choose a File button just allows you to kind of go out there and pick them. Or we can pull in kind of a document browser. This is kind of like My Documents out here. I can pick a couple of documents here. Well, let me pick a couple here. There you go. Those bottom two, I'm picking both of them, and I can drag them both in at one time. And so now they're both here. So you can kind of take a whole folder full and just drop it in just by highlighting them and dropping them in. When you are adding documents in this way, we have a whole bunch of settings down there at the bottom. So of course it's related to, since I'm on the matter, it's already filled out what matter it's going to relate these documents to. I could go ahead and select a folder that I would like to add them to, and I can also categorize my document entries as well. Categories are just like participant roles or journal types. It's just categorizing the information so that I could pull it out a little bit easier. The owner is defaulting to me because I'm logged in. And now the next two items are super important. Shared. Do you want to share with the law firm? And we always mean the law firm that we've connected for e-billing purposes. So do we want to share it? Yes or no? If it's no, the access level doesn't matter because we're just not sharing it at all with outside. If we do share it, well, now look at the access level. And look what I've got posted here. Do I want to share it public with all law firms, private just with me, or do I just want to share it with one of the law firms? So if I just want to share these two items with Willow and Associates, I could do that. So I've got a little bit of control over here about what documents I want to share. Now, of course, when I set these settings here, it's going to apply to both of these documents because I've got them both up there. If I wanted different permissions with each document, I'd add them separately and give them their own permissions. Or I could upload them both and change the permissions later. All right, so let's not share these. And I'm going to upload our documents. And so both of them have been successfully uploaded, and let's return to the matter. I could go in there and go and update more if I wanted to, add more documents if I wanted to, but now as I scroll down, there they both are. They're both in here now. So that's really the long way to go in and add documents. If you want to change the document name, if you want to change the permissions, if you want to do any of that, of course, you can come in here and pick the document and edit that. That's fine. You can do that at any point. So that's the long way to add a document. Now let's do the Outlook add-in. Let's pull that back over again. And again, this is where it's really handy when I go over to my Matters link here to show the My Matters functionality. The My Matter functionality will show my shorter list first. You can always go and view all matters there as well and then search through them if you want to. But that starring action really does help keep kind of a nice smaller list here for you. Now, I've got an email here. And so I've just clicked on it, and that's the email. That email has 2 attachments. It happens to be the very same 2 attachments I've already added. So I've got an email with them. So I can take this entire email, grab it with a left click, and start to drag it over. And I'm going to drag it over this Brookbinder division bankruptcy and drop it. And so there you go, it's uploading. But I've gotten a little error, or it's not even an error, it's an update. It's what do you want to do? Because I've already got those files or files with those names on here. Do I want to keep them all, or do I not want to drag them in again? So I can pick there. And so now I've just taken them all in again. And then I get a little paper clip right beside the title of that matter showing me that something has been added. So that's the email with both attachments. But my attachments are sitting right here too. What if I didn't want the whole email? What if all I wanted was one of the attachments? I can just grab it and drag it over if I wanted to. So I don't have to take the whole email. I can just grab an attachment. And of course, I'm not limited to emails, obviously. I can go and take, here, let's drag this back in. Here's my hard drive here. I can come and take them from here and drag them in from here as well. So anywhere I can drag and drop documents from, I can drag them into CounselLink using that Outlook add-in. So from an email, from my hard drive, from a shared drive, I can drag documents in using the drag and drop action. When you drag and drop documents, of course, you want to be sure of the permissions that you're dragging them in with. Remember, at the top of your screen, there are always CounselLink settings. So there's a ribbon of settings for CounselLink. And under settings, that's where you can come in and tell CounselLink when you drag in documents, do you want to share them? What does your access look like? So you can drag that in and set those for yourself. Obviously, once you have drug in documents into a matter, you can always come in. And here, let's refresh our screen again. We'll see those documents that have come in for the second time. Once you do that, you can always come in here and update your documents in here as well. So if I want to come in here, I can go pick it, edit the settings so that this one is shared and the others are not, so I can pick that if I'd like to. And notice that all of these here, we can kind of drag these out back and forth too and kind of rearrange our spacing there a little bit. So that's getting documents into the system through CounselLink and through the Outlook add-in. The other thing that we can do here, of course, is folder. And so you can see I've got a bunch of document folders in here already. You can add folders to your matters via a template. So of course, that's a system administrator function to add a folder template to your matters. And so this is my basic template. I've got correspondence, emails, and pleadings. On any individual matter, I can click the little edit widget to the side and add subfolders, rename them, delete the folders if I'd like to. And then of course, at the bottom, I can also just add new main folders if I want to as well. So I can add a new folder here And there you go. I can just add them as I see fit. So I can add them as subfolders here, or I could add just a new main folder if I want to. And then I can move around my documents into any of those folders. So I can click on the folders to see any of the documents. Or if I just want to see all documents and don't necessarily want to see them in relation to what folder they're associated with, if I just click the matter up top, it'll show me all documents in the system as well. So foldering is not something that you have to use, but it's there for your convenience if you'd like to. You can add folders on the fly, or you can request that a template be made so that all of your matters have the same basic set of folders, and then you can amend them as necessary. All right, 1255, that's matter documents. Let's see if we've got any questions come in about documents.
Sorry, I was on mute. So one question here, we're at 4 minutes to the top. Somebody had wanted to see a little bit more detail on how the folders work, but I think you did go through those. So we can definitely, if we need to go ahead and take this offline or into a separate meeting, I have responded to that person. But you've just created an ad hoc folder. You can also create Office templates for your folders through the corporate profile page if you have the rights.
That's exactly right. Yeah,
So if
there
you have
is
a litigation office, a patent office, you can have different sets of folders.
That's exactly right. Yes, and if anybody wants more detail on that, we've got your name, so we can follow up with you and show you a little bit more detail. But remember, if you're one of those system administrators, if you click your name up top and go into that corporate profile, that is where we can find the manage folder templates, where you can build folder templates for documents as well. This is on the corporate profile, but remember, I could dive into any of my offices and reach that as well. So I could do office specific folders as well.
And one key thing there is if you didn't see that, folks, that means that you don't have the permissions to be able to see that particular piece. So I believe that is the corporate user, the corporate administrator to see that particular piece.
That's exactly right.
One last question is, will this webinar recording be available later today? Would love to share with team members who were not able to join.
Yeah, so with that, I guess we'll let Patrick answer that one, and I'll switch the presentation back over to Patrick.
That sounds great, Amy. So to answer that question specifically, absolutely. All of you who attended and registered will receive a follow-up email with a link to the recorded webinar, and feel free to share that with your coworkers. Also, like Jeff and Amy both mentioned, we will be taking all the questions we weren't able to get to today, and we will be responding to you. I'm just trying to find the final slide here. Okay. We will be responding to those questions individually because we know we tried to cover a lot of material today, and the engagement from the audience was fantastic. So these events don't work unless there's a two-way flow of communication. So we really appreciate the engagement and providing a lot of good questions for the team here and for your peers at your fellow companies out there. So on the screen, you'll see my contact information should you need to reach out to me for anything concerning the webinar. I know some of you mentioned difficulty with the polls, so we're going to look into that to find out why some of you have issues with the polls. Or reach out to your account manager if you have anything that piqued your interest today or wanted to learn more about. Please reach out to your account manager and they can help you with that. And again, thank you for attending, and you should be receiving an email shortly with a link to the webinar recording. So Amy and Jeff, thank you so much. That was super informative. And everyone have a great day. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye now.